Hi, this is Starkie Sowers. Welcome again to another nutrition moment here at Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market. Today I've got something kind of unique and special for you. I literally had to dust the cobwebs off my brain and go back like 30 years on this particular product line. It's really kind of fun. The name of the company is called BodyBio, all right? So I want you to kind of maybe just kind of look at that, maybe think about what that means, BodyBio. They're one of the original companies that actually started brain hacking back in the 80s, okay? It's a third generation company, all right? So it's being run by the grandkids at this point, and the granddaughter that like kind of took the passion and the mission, and she like took it to the next level. So grandfather started doing what was known as biohacking back in the day on brain health, as well as also kind of like general health. And we're gonna kind of break down some of their products. And I'm kind of go through, kind of each one of them individually. But I think that you're gonna find this a little bit different and a little bit interesting, and at the same time, kind of exciting for the future, all right? So ultimately what happens is this, third generation, Kane Berman and her husband Brad ultimately kind of take the mission and take this product to the next level, literally where it's like all over the place. In fact, these guys have been in all sorts of magazines, they've been on all sorts of different podcasts, they're all over the place. This is kind of a sleeping giant that's just kind of re-woken up in the last like 5 or 6 years. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of go through some core foundational things about this company. So the product that I'm holding right here is called PC. It's a phosphatidylcholine complex. And I want to kind of go slow with this because I want you guys to get a hold of a few things. So phosphatidylcholine complex. So where do you get phosphatidylcholine complexes from? Well, there's a lot of different sources. As you can see, I kind of put a few different things out here. You can get it from eggs, you can also get it from nuts, and you can also get it from soybeans. And this, right away, I say the word soybeans and everybody freaks out a little bit. Unless it's non-GMO, of course this product is a non-GMO soybean. But here's the deal. There's so many different forms of phosphatidylcholines that we get it through our diets typically, but a lot of times a lot of people will avoid eggs, they'll avoid soybeans, different things of that nature. So what I'm going to tell you is this: you might actually be having a deficiency in these phosphatidyl complexes. So I'm going to explain what a phosphatidyl complex is, so maybe you'll just have a little bit better understanding on that. So what it is, it's a complex between fatty acids and specific different types of amino acid substances and or vitamins, and they're bound together, okay? So what does that mean? So why is that important to me? So ultimately these particular types of complexes end up being in your cellular membranes from head to toe. So when I think of that, I'm thinking from head to toe, all the cell membranes in your whole body have different types of phosphatidyl complexes, and I'll break them down individually in a second. Why is that critical? So when it comes to cell integrity, so what does that mean? The ability for cells to function properly, the ability for cells to divide properly, as well as to be able to communicate between cells and with the immune system, as well as also help to regulate inflammation. These phosphatidyl complexes have to be in our cells. If we don't consume them, our body will make them as best as they can if they can. Ironically speaking, back in the 80s, there was a bunch of different books and publications that were put out about them, and ultimately found out that when using phosphatidyl complexes, what it actually did is it actually not only helped with specific types of diseases, but also helped with things such as like mental alertness, immunity, as well as prevention of aging. These guys are really, in my opinion, one of the original biohackers. This particular complex that I was showing you, this used to be on the market in the late 80s and the early 90s, and I had to pick it up from a company that basically only dealt with doctors. Okay, and they were doing research on this stuff when it came to like Parkinson's, autoimmune disease, as well as all sorts of different types of neurological situations. And they were using it and they were writing books about it back in the moment. So when they came to us and said, hey, we want you to talk about our products, I'm like going, man, I've got the books, I've got everything. So I dusted my memory banks off and everything like that. So let me talk about this. I think it's a core product that they have. In fact, I'm so convinced about this product, I put it back into my regime, so to speak, after 20 years of layoff, all right? So what happens is this is a concentrated lecithin compound from soybeans, and ultimately what it has in it has phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylethanolamine, phosphatidylmethionine, phosphatidylinositol, and phosphatidylserine. A lot of you guys might know about phosphatidylserine. There's been all sorts of research, helps improve golf swing, believe it or not, great for focus, and also helping with mental alertness. What you might not know about phosphatidylcholine, for years I used to love to sell phosphatidylcholine for two different things. Number one, for sharpening up the brains. Number two, for somebody who was like a college student that was getting ready for a test and needed memory recall. Yeah, memory recall. Remember that stuff? All right, so ultimately this particular product is amazing for that. I've been using it. I like it. I love the effect of it. But what I want you to do is be able to get past that whole soybean phobia, right? So what we're not talking about genetically modified soybean proteins and things of that nature. We're talking about the fats from soybeans. And ultimately what happens, as I said, with these compounds, phosphatidylcholine actually crosses the blood-brain barrier and actually gets choline derived into the brain and stimulates the production of acetylcholine, which is not only mind to muscle, but also memory and calm brain and quick mental alertness. This stuff is amazing stuff. They've got it in capsule form as well. And this, in my opinion, this ends up being probably the foundation or the core when it comes to their actual, ready for this, biohacking moment back out of the 80s into the 2020s and ultimately bringing back not only what was so effective back then, but it's something we probably all need and are lacking now. So ultimately, when I look at this product, I think this is a great foundation because what they've basically been doing with their whole product line is doing different types of biohacks. So we're going to go through and look at some of their other things, but ultimately, to me, this is one of the foundations. The other thing that I think that's kind of critically important to remember when it comes to different type of phosphatidylcholine complexes, remember that your cells are ultimately a mixture of fats and water-soluble compounds. Without the lecithin components or the complexes, the phosphatidylcholine complexes, which is from lecithins, if they're not in the body, what happens is the actual cellular membranes don't adhere and they don't work well. Just like oil and water, they kind of separate. So what happens, and I actually poured this into a combination of oil and water, what you actually see is the dispersion, so to speak, of these particular water and fat molecules into one, allowing the cell membranes to work properly. So ultimately, don't forget, when you're thinking about this, it's literally going to help your body's membranes work all over the body, cell rejuvenation, all sorts of different components. So let's go a little bit further as well too. Kind of interesting was this. Body Balance also, the BodyBio rather, it makes a balanced oil complex. And what they did with this, they used a combination of different oils to give you omega-3s and omega-6s as the foundational properties for making the essential lipids, right? So what we oftentimes forget is we have to have these lipids in our body, the omega-6s and omega-3s, to make DHA, EPA, things of that nature. Ultimately what happens here though is they have actually put together a nice complex balance of oils that allows us to have a combination with their lecithin to give you the perfect balance of all these fats together so your body's making efficiently the fats that are needed for cellular membrane and also for brain health. All right, so I think that ultimately something that would be a foundational product would be using those two together. I think that's a great combination to get you the balance of fatty acids that you need and also to help rebuild, so to speak, the fatty acid complexes in each and every cell in the body. So let me throw this thought out. If you're going to use this stuff and you're thinking, well, I'm going to use it for 2 days and see if I don't get that mental alertness and mental quickness, what I tell everybody, you need to use it, at least 2 weeks of use before you actually start noticing the brain effect. If you use it for like a month or better, you'll actually start feeling like you're less as far as like anti-cognition. So what I mean by that is like improved mental alertness, as well as you just feel like your brain is not working hard anymore. It's an incredible biohack to actually make you start not only feeling better, but actually younger, especially if you're older, past 50 or something like that. I think you'll get incredible benefits by using the combination together. All right, so now let's talk about this. A lot of people lately have been talking about different things, such as, ready for this, brain fog. Well, brain fog can be various different types of things. You might have seen some of our other episodes. We've talked about brain fog. And ultimately, brain fog oftentimes really boils down to a gut issue as well. And so we talked about that as far as having the proper amount of different types of bacteria, so your body's actually producing a favorable environment so it actually can take fibers, so to speak, and actually chew them up. Remember, fibers are prebiotics, and then what happens is there's postbiotics. And those postbiotics are things such as hydrogen peroxide, lactic acid. The other thing that it also produces when a bacteria eats different types of fibers, it produces also short-chain fatty acids. And I always say this, that it basically makes butyric acid. So butyric acid is one of the things that kind of clears the toxins out of the intestinal system. And the other thing that it does as well too is also kind of just eliminates a bunch of garbage that the body wants to reabsorb. So ultimately what happened in this particular situation, once again, ahead of its time, they come out with a postbiotic, and we call those butyric acid complexes postbiotics. So ultimately what happens with BodyBio is they came out with this in a capsule. Ultimately, this is probably one of the best things. This is kind of fun. I thought this was fun, some of the things they put on here. Not only is it good for brain fog, which is like the immediate thing that everyone's talking about, it's also necessary for microbiome support. So ultimately, when it comes down to the gut health, the other thing is it improves digestion across the board. This is what's really kind of fun right here. It promotes healthy DNA. So what does it mean by that? One of the things it actually does is it seems to help not only with DNA replication, but also helps to prevent DNA from going funky. So what does that mean? It actually maybe is a preventative for certain types of diseases. And not only that, more importantly, it's going to be a biohacker for aging. It's going to make a big difference for aging complexes and kind of keep the body in a balanced situation so it's actually rejuvenating cells properly and preventing it from having defects or whatever you want to call it, and actually improving longevity and as far as like not only for the long run, but also for the short run as well too. All right, so a couple other little fun things I thought were interesting here. They came out with a liposomal vitamin C. So those liposomal vitamin C's obviously are all over the market. Somebody asked me the other day, they said, what do you think of liposomal vitamin C? I'm like, well, you know, I'm not really convinced that everybody's actually making a liposomal. So what does it mean to be a liposomal? They're actually taking the vitamin C, which is ascorbic acid. Obviously, one of the problems with too much ascorbic acid is it actually causes GI effects, and you actually have diarrhea, things of that nature. So it's hard to get a lot of vitamin C into the cells, right? Especially not only into the cells, but into the bloodstream. So the idea of using a liposomal is you're combining a fat with the vitamin C, so it kind of delivers into the system a lot easier and you don't get the GI upset. Well, one of the problems that's going on is people just take like vitamin C and they'll just like add lecithin to it and put in a capsule, go, okay, let the body do its thing. It's like they're not really fully reacting the whole product, actually making a liposomal. So once again, what's a liposomal? A liposomal is almost like this, where we're actually taking the fat and the water substance, because remember, vitamin C is water soluble, and we're blending them together so the body can use it. Whole different situation. So like I said, a lot of the products on the market, really, no offense, they're not only not liposomals, it's kind of like, you know, it's really probably not going to work as effective as what they think. So ultimately, if it's not a legitimate liposomal vitamin C, you're not going to be able to get the same effect out of it as you would with a liposomal. Not only this is a liposomal, the other thing that they've done is with the sourcing when it comes to the raw materials on this is actually bar none. It's one of the best products as far as I've seen when it comes to liposomal vitamin C. If I'm going to buy liposomal vitamin C, this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to BodyBio. There's no question about it. It's a legitimate liposomal vitamin C, okay? So let me give you a little advantage moment on this. For instance, like my wife, she can't take capsules. She's had scar tissue, different things like that. She can't swallow a lot of pills. So she needs lots of dosage of vitamin C, okay? Give her one of those a day and you're probably gonna get the same effect that you would get out of like 1,000 or 2,000 milligrams of the other vitamin C's that you might see on the market. All right, so now let's have fun with this one. This one's kind of fun. It's called Calm. I like this one. I like to read the labels on it. A couple different things on here. It says right here, balanced stress response, increases mental performance, promotes general sense of calmness, adrenal and central nervous system support. All right, so remember one of the foundations we're talking about is making your body back to whole when it comes to cellular health. So what does that mean with cellular health? Number one, what it means is like after months or weeks of taking the phosphatidylcholine complex, you're going to start improving cellular function. That said, it's going to help with memory, it's going to help with immunity, it's help with all these different things. And as I was saying, there's all sorts of different research on different types of diseases, especially liver diseases, things of that nature where the phosphatidylcholine complexes work. But a lot of times people want to see an immediate effect, okay? So that's the great part about this particular product. What they did is they combined together in a proprietary blend some amino acids, specifically some taurine and some glycine, and so ultimately and some rhodiola. And what this is going to do is actually give you an immediate effect. And so let me kind of give you a breakdown on those amino acids. As you know, glycine and taurine work in the brain to kind of like mellow down the brain and just like make life a little bit easier. Put you not only not really in necessarily a slow mode, but more in like a calm mode. Glycine helps the brain kind of process nice and easily, kind of sets back the nervous system where you feel good. At the same time, they ended up using in here rhodiola. Rhodiola, in my opinion, is like one of the greatest herbs you could ever use. It's lots of scientific research on rhodiola when it was done up in Russia and some of the other cold countries by different athletes. It was considered a primary substance for cosmonauts back in the day, for mental alertness and for stress and be able to handle life in a stressful situation. So if you want to put the brakes on, enjoy the day a lot, at the same time be in a position where you're actually not only able to attack the day, but also calmly attack the day, this would be a great formula of use. It feels great when you use it. All right, so I thought I would kind of come across, this is a foundational product that they developed. They've added the butyric acid complexes. So then one of the other things, one of the things that he did years ago, and this is kind of a fun story. If you get online and you read about this, in his bathtub, he actually made this electrolyte formula just to like, hey, I didn't have a laboratory that knew about how to do this. So back in the day, he actually formulated this stuff and he started using it himself. Obviously, when it came time to manufacture the stuff, he took it to a lab and told them how it needed to be done. I actually tried using this recently. I don't like electrolyte formulas because what do? They threw in all sorts of different types of sugars and different things like that. And ultimately what happens when you use it, it just tastes terrible, right? So real simple on this one. You literally take a cap full of this and you add it to like 8 ounces, or you can use like a 16-ounce bottle like I did in this situation. So it's clear, deposits in there completely. And ultimately when you literally taste oftentimes these electrolytes, they have a tendency to be really kind of salty and like really just have like a really odd flavor. So what's really fun is Madeline's on the other side. She gets to be a guinea pig. So I'm gonna hand this over to her, and it should ultimately, it's gonna taste a little bit different than just water by itself, but really the question is, does it actually have much of a flavor at all? And the answer is, Madeline, dun 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 dun, drum roll.
I don't taste a difference.
Don't taste a difference.
No.
Exactly. And so what's cool is it's not only BodyBio, but it's BodyBio balanced. And this particular E-Lite formula not only is easy to use, you could probably use this with your kids and they wouldn't even know that they were using this stuff, all right? It's a balance of sodium as well as potassium and magnesium. So they use it obviously for cramping, different things like that, athletic events. And then a lot of people have been like kind of just jumping in on the whole electrolyte bandwagon because a lot of waters, as oftentimes as they are, they're purified and they remove a lot of the minerals out of it for taste. And so putting some minerals back into the water oftentimes make a lot of sense. All right, finally, this is kind of a fun one. This is called Tudka. We've been selling this like crazy. People are like coming in the door asking for it. This actually is a specific fraction from bile salts. So a lot of you guys might go, oh wow, what's bile salts? Once again, when it comes to bile is an emulsifier. So this action of the lecithin together with the water and the fats, actually blending them up into a cloudy substance. By the way, that's what makes the difference between like an oil and water suspension and also like maybe something like some type of like maybe a ranch dressing. That's what gives it the creamy effect, is what we call like lecithin or an emulsifying agent. So what it's doing is blending fats and waters together, right? So ultimately what happens here is Tudka actually is a bile salt component. What's interesting about this, it actually has taurine in it, which is an amino acid. It's one of the conjugates where they kind of blend together. So ultimately what happens in this particular situation, Tudka actually not only helps with digestion of fats, the other thing is actually it's a powerful antioxidant. And then when it comes to all sorts of non-liver type diseases and stuff like that, neurological symptoms, a lot of those fats have to be able to be broken down to actually benefit the nervous system. Tudka seems to not only help with that, and what you'll actually see some fun little stuff in here. It actually says liver protector, bioregenerator or regulator, so to speak, and a neuroprotective effect that it actually has on the body. And so it actually is very effective for neurological things. Jump online, do a PubMed search. You'll see things like Parkinson's as well as other different type of neurological disorders. People that are using it actually having some incredible benefits. Okay, as I was saying, biohacking. Biohacking is the idea of changing the brain, changing the outcome of your brain health as well as your overall health. So ultimately, if you're gonna choose a line that's actually been in the business for 30 plus years and has all sorts of clinical fun stuff, I tell you what, this line, when it first hit, I looked at them like going, these guys are rolling back the pages to bring back the things that so effectively were used for generations and generations, and added to it a whole nother layer, so to speak, for biohacking and getting quick results as well as long-term results. So if I'm going to be the person that's going to use the product, which I've decided a couple days ago I'd start using it, I started using the phosphatidylcholine complex. The other thing that I like doing is actually using the E-Lite. So ultimately what happens in that is I work out a lot and stuff like that, but I hate, as I said, using the electrolytes. This one works amazing. I thought also, by the way, I would take home this for my wife. I take vitamin C like crazy, like the fact, but this is going to end up being a product that she'll be able to use and be able to get the benefit that she needs from large amounts of vitamin C with only having to use a small amount. Finally, ultimately, another fun stuff, I like the brain effect of the butyric acid complexes. I want you to challenge yourself and kind of dig in and maybe just think about it. Jump online. They've got little quizzes online that you can actually take and it kind of guide you into some of their products as well. What a great product. What a great ability for us to sell it. Ultimately making it a new formula for biohacking as well as for individuals that maybe have never really tried to like maybe cognitively wake up, so to speak. I think you'd be challenged on this moment. I think this is something, the PC formula, if you want to be cognitively alert, I think this is something you gotta try. All right, thanks again for watching another episode here at Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market.